Sports event consisting of 10 teams here for round number 1 at the inaugural Belgian Grand Prix. And today I am joined here today as one and only Thomas Bompier, or Heads Bompier as you like to call him. Loads of trees around here which suits his name.
Yeah, definitely. What a lovely intro that was. Thank you very much for being here as well. And yeah, round 1, the second season of the IRT event. I can't wait to get going with some big teams and very quick drivers here.
Yeah, indeed. So 20 drivers and 10 teams all competing here around the Belgian Grand Prix then for the second season, like you said there. So immediately we're in the 18-minute qualifier session, which should put on, there's only 19 by the way, so one driver is missing then. So one of these drivers does not have a teammate, which is crucial around here because teamwork will ultimately get you up there as well. And we're just waiting for the first drivers. They're nice and dry because this track has been known to rain, or this country as well. This part of the circuit has been known to rain in the Ardennes Forest as well. And 2021 we had that race. Well, I say race, it wasn't even a race because we only had a few laps behind the safety car where Verstappen took the victory ahead of Russell and Hamilton, and qualifying was pivotal for that day. Only half points were awarded, which is crucial as well for those smaller teams like Williams, and I think they finished ahead of Alfa Romeo and the constructors as well. But we've got some drivers there making their way around this circuit then, this 7-kilometer circuit, a long circuit as well. And if it was raining, we'll see the times of the twos then. So what we expected tonight, Bompier, what's the pace going to be like? Who do you think is going to be up there with those teams?
Well, as you said, it can always be raining, so especially with drivers not really going out straight away. Maybe they saw something that we didn't on their pit screens, and maybe they wanted to put up a wet setup for later on in the race. But the teams that I'm currently expecting to be on top are, of course, NLR, ET8, CPI, WOR, you know, JR, of course. They only have one driver, unfortunately, in P17, the AlphaTauri. But those are the teams that generally in this game have been up there, and yeah, those are the teams that I'm expecting today as well to be doing really good.
I think last week in the qualifying session we saw both Red Bulls up there, so their pace has been mighty. Can they continue this form then here? Like you said, I think two drivers only have one teammate. It is the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull Denso, so hopefully those two can get along solo by themselves and see if they can get the results they need. Hello everybody in the chat, I hope you're all doing well. Hello Choye, he's supporting the CPI team as well, so keep an eye on CPI for him. Hello Harley, hello Alex the G, I hope you're both doing well here. Alex the G, absolute goat on com, and Bompier as well. Bompier is a fantastic commentator. You should hear him in the past few races. He's a very good commentator to commentate with. So if those drivers or those those teams who need commentary, sorry. Before I continue, I am a bit drunk. I'm not been drinking too much today. It was last night. I'm not recovered. So if I do slur on my words, apologise about that one. This is not my usual form. So hopefully you can all forgive me on that. But we've got majority of drivers then on the track, except two with Nathan and Leighton. Then leaving it late because you want to get 3 runs because this is such a long track. It's not like Austria or Monaco or anywhere else like that. You only get 3 runs. Enzo gets squirrely cut out the last quarter then, so that might compromise him just a bit. As now we're making our way down to La Source into the board, missing the apex slightly, but can he get it hooked up? Short shifting, massive wheel spin there for Enzo, so it's okay for Enzo. It's his first lap time, so I don't expect it to be perfect because obviously your first lap time is just exploring out there. As we head towards Eau Rouge, and now Radion should be flat out through those 2 corners there as we head towards the DRS, so we should see plenty of DRS trades around here then as we make our way now into Lacombe very shortly. Let's see where he breaks then just before the 50-meter board, using a lot of curve on the inside there, and this one too. You're going to get it very right through here, carrying a lot of speed and hitting all the curves there. That's the best way you can get it without losing the car, of course. Very easy to do so. The exit of Lacombe into Rivarge we go then, this downhill right-handed, then just let feather in the throttle there as we head into it's just a validation. Enzo's lap unfortunately has been scruffy, so hopefully he can sort that out in the next coming runs.
Yeah, indeed, it was looking not that good of a lap, so he probably wouldn't be that upset with invalidating it. Although it's of course good to have a banker in, and then you can compare your time to that. And apologies, I made a mistake earlier. It's indeed WOR in the AlphaTauri. They have 2 drivers. It's only JR in the Red Bull that has only 1 driver competing today. And speaking of WR, Raul is currently just at the end of sector 2 with a 13.4. I think that's a pretty decent lap time, especially considering that it is a banker, and he's on the back straight, going on to Blanchimont right now, flat out of course. Easily done in that car, in these cars, braking just before the 100 meters, down to third for the bus stop chicane, just mid to apex a little bit, so that will compromise his exit as well. Not the best of bus stop chicanes that we're gonna see today, and it is a 41.8. That is a decent banker, but I'm expecting sometimes to be way quicker than that.
And Kilcree in the Aston Martin then puts 2 tenths between himself and Raul, as he's had in P2 there in the Haas with a 41.7, then just a few hundreds, as Denzo in the Red Bull goes quickest with a 41.3. as Stroud in the Williams is currently in P2 there, so good lap time from him, as all these tyres will come thick and fast then, as the CPI driver is currently in P4, 3,000 separating him and Kilcree as well in the CPI, so that's quite astonishing to see around this 7-kilometer track, all these times being quite close together. P6 goes Antonio there for IRT, Clem in P9 there in the Alpine, so let's see then if anybody else is close towards line. Quite a few drivers in that last set to the bus stop chicane then, so they're all bunched up there, as the Alfa Romeo of Lupi goes into P10 ahead of his teammates, so I dare say those two there, not a representative lap time. They've got more in the bag unless they were struggling that first lap, of course. So early doors in qualifying, we do tend to see some people struggle because just building up to that lap time towards the end of qualifying then, so hopefully those two Alfa Romeos there can improve their lap times then, as we've got Leighton on a lap. So let's see then what he does in that first sector. It's a 30.2 in the first sector then, and let's see how it takes Lacan. Quite a difficult sequence of corners there. You want to be on the curb at every single corner there, but he didn't really quite hook it up, as we now make our way into Rivage. We go downshift into third gear, fed in the throttle, make sure you don't lose traction through this corner, mid-speed corner of course, and now we're heading towards no name, and into fourth gear he goes, use the outside. Remember in the older games where you could just fully extend the track limits of that corner there, but not obviously in this game you can't, and yep, unfortunately for Leighton, has invalidated the lap time. Talk about track limits there, unfortunately for the Alfa Tauri driver there for WOR. See what Nathan's doing, he's coming towards Rivage now, so he's currently in P14, not with a lap time. He was one of those drivers who was late out towards the pit lane, as the rest of them went early doors. Nathan coming towards Puon now, so that wasn't really flat out through. They didn't really hook it up there, has Nathan, so I dare say Haas lost quite a lot of time. You can see they're not really confident as Nathan as he enters these corners. A bit of hesitation, not really carrying the speed as Nathan, so I wonder if he's just on an exploratory lap time. I dare say he might be headed back in the pit lane due to the fuel as well, as this is not a good lap time there for Nathan. There's definitely more he could do in that Mercedes bump here.
Yeah, definitely 5 tenths down already on what I remember was Raul Reese's time, so he's currently on for a 42 mid, which would put him around that P10 just in front of the Alfa Romeos, but it's really not a good lap time so far for Nathan. Is he going to finish it though? He is. He did hit the apexes though on the last two corners, as I think that's Danny Connor going into P7, and indeed Nathan in P10 just ahead of Clem with around 400s, with a good last sector then from the Mercedes, but 42.1. He needs to improve on that. His teammate in P6, both Haases are looking pretty good, and the Sol Red Bull, he is still P1 though, 600s ahead. Basically everyone currently without a time, I assume, has invalidated their lap. I saw the McLaren of Nick, he was just leaping around the track in the gravel traps, just gave up on his time. Same with Mohammed, I think, and yeah, they do have the pressure on them. Igor, he is the first one out again in the Ferrari, looking to set his first lap time of the session.
EPEC is the drivers in Haas, to answer your question, Alex, and bottom there, I think he's going for, no, he's just validated that lap time. He was a few hundreds down in that first sector. It looks like his strategy, by the way, I don't know if he's got a brand new set of softs on that car, but he's already done 2 laps on this set of softs, so he's not putting on a brand new set of softs like Danny Connor down in P7 there. So that's quite interesting to see those strategies happening, where other people do 1 lap, put a brand new set of softs on, and do the exact same thing. As Danny Connor there gets very out onto Puon there, and he's validated the lap time before Puon, so his triple started before that corner anyway. But yeah, quite interesting to see the run plans throughout all these drivers here. Some haven't set a lap time, like you said. Both McLarens, by the way, I did see them both validate their lap times, Mohammed and the other driver there in P16. So unfortunately for those guys, couldn't get a banker in with 8 minutes and 50 seconds left to go in the qualifying session. and Esports. Oh yeah, Esports is Erpex, says Alex the G. So just clarifying that one, as majority of drivers then on their outlaps as Nathan and Danny Connor will be headed back into the pit lane. Then I think Enzo out there, who hasn't set a lap time just yet. We went on board with him on the first lap. He's currently on a lap now, but he did validate a struggle on his first lap. Then as he couldn't get it all together. But hopefully this time, I think he's got a decent exit because that's where he did struggle in the first corner, and he just dips on power there coming towards Eau Rouge and Rodio. They just loses the speed through those corners. He might get a good tow on the back of these cars who are on their outlaps. That's both McLarens running in sequence together. A 30.1 in the first sector, a bit of hesitation going through. They didn't really hook up the second part on Lecombe. Goes to the final part of it very nice through there, carrying the speed. But as we make our way down into Belgian, we've got the Aston Martin of Kilcree on a lap time, so keep an eye on him then as Enzo hooks the inside curve there, going into No Name then. I think he invalidated into Pouon or No Name, I'm quite sure, but it was definitely one of those two corners now. As he makes his way into Pouon, he goes then flat out, well not flat out, slight lift off on the entry there, but I think in 2020 we saw the Mercedes go flat out through there. It's quite incredible the speeds they could carry in these modern Formula 1 day cars. Go into the chicane then, quite difficult as well, very important to hook up the first part of it so you get the second part right. And Enzo, they're really struggling to, as we come into a barge now, let's see what he does then as we make our way now into Blanchimont. We've got quite a few drivers on their flying laps. Then we've got the Aston Martin heading towards the final corner. I think that's Kilcree's teammate in the other Aston Martin. I think it's Moustache on his outlap. He's currently down there at P19, so desperately love to get a lap time on the board to get a banker in and compare his lap times. I think there's a problem with the Aston Martin into Pouon. We've got Enzo coming towards the line now, 42.4 unfortunately for him then, so dearly love to improve on that. But Kilcree, he was a few hundreds down in the first sector and unfortunately has invalidated the lap time. I did see an Aston Martin go slowly through there with the yellow flags in place, and also Denzo as well invalidated his lap time too, so quite a few invalidations at this stage of qualifying. Bompier.
Yeah, drivers is apparently struggling to keep the car within those white lines. One who also struggled a bit, I saw, it was Igor. He went into P13, only a 42.5, and he can definitely do better. We saw that in qualifying as well, putting the second or the third fastest overall time. I think that was in Spain. He was doing very good there, and currently in Belgium he seems to be struggling. But both McLaren's cars so far in qualifying also struggling. They are just starting their lap time. Mohammed is coming across the Camo Straight now towards the end of Sector 1. Let's see what time he's done. He did a 29.8, and that is already 3/10 better than, for example, Enzo. We just seen him do. Behind him, his teammate is also still on the lap. He didn't invalidate Mohammed with a really nice Lecombe, getting that slide as well. In that slow right-hander onto No Name, down to 4th gear, just kissing that apex on the left-hand side, and that is it's looking so far so really good. Almost slight lift through Pouon, but it isn't a big enough lift for Mohammed, and he invalidated a teammate behind as well. So both McLarens did an identical mistake, and both have invalidated the second runs as well. And I think that is Moustache, who has just jumped up into P4, just slots ahead of his teammate, 800s ahead. Speaking of the devil, his teammate is currently still on a lap, after of course invalidating his previous one, but he is slightly down in the first sector. Let's see what he can do in the middle and last sector, of course. On used tires this will be. His fuel is also not looking too fresh, so maybe he's put to less fuel to actually complete this. We know of course that it is a long track, so you need some big fuel to do multiple laps in a row. Kilcree, he is up, and it is a massive improvement in that middle sector, 4/10, so he is currently easily looking on for a professional pole with that 4/10 improvements. Will probably put him down or up into P1 with a 41.2 if he cannot find more time in the last sector, that is, Jamie.
Yeah, Kilcree in a really good lap here on his second attempt, and as he validated on his first one somewhere in the middle sector. But Kilcree then makes his way to out the final corner as he crosses the line now. What's he going to be? A 41.2, 3/10 quicker, or 4/10 almost on his previous lap time then. So that's the benchmark he has set for the rest of the drivers then, as Bottom goes into P2 with a 41.3. Further, a few moments ago, Raul in the AlphaTauri went up to P5 with a great lap for him as we come towards then the last part start of qualifying then, where the last set of tyres on the softs will be used. So anybody out there on a lap time, we've got Danny Connor making his way now towards the line. What's it going to be for him? A 41.5. He puts himself inside that top 10 then. Into P60 it goes, crucially for him as well. So good lap time there from Danny Connor. Anybody else out there? We've got the Williams of Aizu there, but unfortunately he's not on a lap time for himself. I think he ran out of fuel as well for good measure, so he is not on a lap time. Both McLarens and both Alfa Romeos on the back foot there. Both McLarens, like you said, I went on board with both of them. When Mohammed did it first, I went on board with his teammate, and he did the exact same thing like you said then. So both McLarens there just can't get it hooked up into P1. Most crucial corner, you want to use all the track you can get away with, but not too much, as you've seen. And looks like bottom there's gone for a second lap on that set of soft compound tyres, but he's low on EOS, he's run out of fuel, and he has to get back in the pit lane. He was up in the first sector, but looks like he went for another flying lap. I think he's gone for 2 consecutive lap times, which you don't want to do, because one, your tyres will be the absolute best in terms of tyre temperature. They'll be sky high, and 2, you can't regenerate that EOS like in the olden days where you could just go for multiple runs in the old cars, and you can't save EOS on one lap as well. So unless it's raining, of course, you could do multiple runs, but in terms of the tyres, the soft tyres are too malleable, not a lot of tread, and therefore tyre temperature rises up as the lap continues then, so you can't really do it. Unless he's rushing, of course, to get back in the pit lane. That could be another scenario, because time is on edge for him, so I dare say that was the reason why he was going quick on his, or in-lap, I dare say.
Yeah, that surely is. Kilcree already retiring from the session, probably didn't have enough time to go out again, or he just wants to save another set of soft tires. One of the two is very likely. Only one currently on the lap, I think, is Antonio, who's just entered Lecom. A little bit of traffic, but it shouldn't have hampered him at all, as they both went out of the way very nicely. Everyone on outlaps currently. Mercedes going into the twisty section of this circuit. Intonanen keeping it in 5th, missing the apex ever so slightly, but he carried some speed through there, so it should all be very fine. Interpol 1 got on that inside curb, that did scrub some speed off. You can't really go on the throttle if you do that, so it's not looking like the best laps of them all currently for the Mercedes driver, but I think it will definitely be an improvement. Of course, with track evolution as well. Beatom also retiring, so P1 and P2 currently calling it a day for qualifying. Antonio up 2/10 already, and he needs to still navigate that bust-up chicane as well. Danny Connor retiring, that's in the pit as well, of course. They all don't want to go out again, as they simply don't have time for it. Antonio braking at 100 meters, hitting that apex very nicely on the inside and hitting the curb for the second corner as well. And he goes up to the finish line, and he goes up to P5, just 1,000 behind Astra. That's very close gap, of course.
Yeah, and I'll talk about Astride, unfortunately has invalidated in that middle sector. There's 50 seconds left to go, so Astride, if he's got the fuel, which he has, will have another lap time in spare then, and I'm not quite sure where he's done that. Clem, unfortunately in the Alpine, has invalidated too, so there's not enough time for him to go around the track once more and do a flying lap. So that's his qualifying session done and dusted there. We've got both Alpines and both McLarens who've just started their final flying lap. Both McLarens haven't set a lap time, unfortunately, and that looks like a bit wide there from Nick in P18, but thankfully did not invalidate that lap time then. So both McLarens on the back foot then. Hopefully on their last flying run they can get the lap time they need then. So we're coming towards the closing stages of qualifying. Is anybody close towards the line? I'm going to go on board with Mohammed just further up the road then as he comes out of Stabilo. He was purple in the middle sector, but I'm not quite sure if that was his personal best or not. But hopefully both McLarens down there can get a lap time on the board then as we come towards Blanchimont now. Flat out corner, beautiful corner as well, as you head down to the bus stop chicane where all the hard work can be undone. As you can see, they're sliding through the corner then as we make our way into the final corner as he gets out of it with no wheel spin. Decent exit there for Mohammed. What can he do? It's a 40.9. He puts it on pole position. What a lap time there from Mohammed then. He finally gets a lap time on the board. What can his teammate do? He can't do anything about it. He has invalidated a lap time then. So Mohammed pulling it out of nowhere. That was desperate times, desperate measures for their Mohammed, and he's finally done it. Thankfully for the McLaren driver's sake, as one driver's in first, the other one is in last place, but we've still got more drivers yet to cross the line. And we've got AlphaTauri making his way towards the line. What's he going to do? He goes up into P12. That is Leighton. The Alfa Romeo next across the line. He goes up into P10. Inside the top 10 he goes. Mercedes is back in the pit lane. As we've got a Haas making his way now towards the final 2 corners. Antonio is retired then. A Haas making his way now towards the line. What can he do in that Haas? Goes up into P7 then. Both Haas's inside the top 10 currently. The Aston Martin crossed the line now. Can't do anything about it. And we've got an Alpine now making his way towards the line. But I don't think he's on a lot of time. Go back to the pit lane. The AlphaTauri is next across the line. What can he do? Can't do anything about it. I think he stays where he is for the time being. And the Alfa Romeo is headed off into the pit lane then. So Astrad, I think one of the few drivers yet to do their final lap. He comes across the line now. It's a 41.1 and he puts that Williams into second place there. What a lap time from him. A Red Bull crossed the line now. Goes P1. That's Denso with a 40.7. 2/10 is the gap there. So Denso takes back his pole position and that's an outstanding lap time there ahead of Mohammed, and Astrad in P3 is the top 3 then. So that's an incredible grid there. That was a fantastic qualifying, it must be said. And Denso is the man on pole.
Yeah, it was an amazing qualifying, with of course the last one to cross the line, snatching pole away from Mohammed, who in his first actual run that he didn't invalidate got of course provisional pole with his teammate of course unfortunately just not being able to set a single lap. So the field is almost a full McLaren sandwich, but Denso the only one who prevented that with a 40.7, a mighty lap time from the sole Red Bull, doing his team proud while being the only driver. That is of course what you want to see. Astrad P3 and Kilcree, the best NLR driver in P4, Beaton P5, Antonio P6, Eisen P7, Raul in P8, Dani P9 and Izu rounding up the top 10 for that qualifying. And just loading into the actual race, that is what I thought was gonna happen with drivers, of course, staying in the first couple of minutes of qualifying. It is soaking in Spa. It's gonna be full wet tires. The actual FIA would probably call off the race by now, but we're gonna race. The track is looking wetter than ever.
Yeah, so qualifying was very important then for all the drivers, and let's see that pole position really crucial then for Denso in the Red Bull. Like Verstappen took pole away from George Russell in 2021, and we'll see what happens then in this race. Mohammed in P2 looking really good, but there's no formation lap of course. So 5 lights then. We are underway for round 1 at the Belgian Grand Prix. There might be a tentative start, might see a few crashes, but as we head, there's a virtual safety car because there's a McLaren in the background who hasn't started the race. He's down to P19. He is stranded. He probably realised there's no formation lap then. He's down there. What's happening here? There's a few drivers squabbling for position under this virtual safety car. Astrad and the McLaren driver has been disqualified anyway, but there's a few people swapping positions as they all went down turn 1 together, and Astrad's up into P2. But Havertz lost 2 places then, so he got compromised with that virtual safety car. So not really an exciting first lap, I hope to be, as Astrad gets a 5-second time penalty for ignoring the yellow flag. So whatever happened to the McLaren down there, the virtual safety cars ended. Kilcree has got a good restart. He's going to go up the inside into Lecon we go. He gets ahead of Williams, goes off the track, and he almost made contact there with the Williams, with the McLaren on Mohammed, taking P3 away. The Aston Martin is in the wall and he's out of the race. This could be another safety car. Is it going to be a safety car? I'm not quite sure, but yes, there is a safety car then. So a virtual and a safety car in the first sector alone. We haven't even completed a lap yet, Bompier.
It has been a mental start to say the least, as Nick just didn't get off the line, and that caused a virtual safety car by, well, not even turn 1. This is some very interesting stuff, but not per se in the positive sense of that word.
Pompier, both Aston Martins are out unfortunately. Moustache has had his own issues down at the Rivage unfortunately, so both Aston Martins are, after both of them qualified I think inside the top 10 then, so all their hard work and qualifying is undone. In fact Moustache I think started in P11 if I got my mathematics right. Yes he did then in P11, and unfortunately then the 2 big ones out there of this race. Denso leads, Astrad do we? Should you? I don't know. Whatever happened at the first? Well, before the race even started. Should we do a restart? I'm not quite sure. Who's it up to do a restart, Bompier?
Uh, Me, and I'm currently discussing it. So you take it away.
Then, so unfortunately for the McLaren driver down in last place, then I'm not quite sure if I don't know what happened to him. He just didn't start the race. Whether he was like that, I'm not quite sure. But it definitely caused a virtual safety car. Then the safety car came out because of Kilcree's crash down at Lacombe. So that's unfortunately there. But Red Bull then leads ahead of Ashdod, who's got that 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. And it is a restart, everybody.
Yep.
So Bompier has called it, and a restart will be happening then. So I think there's a second chance in this race. So both Aston Martins there. I think this is the right call as well. I don't know what gone off down at the start of the race, but I think these drivers will be relieved then because majority of them lost a few positions, and one of them's got a 5-second time penalty. So Ashtroud will be very happy there's a restart to get rid of that 5-second time penalty, and we could do the restart once again. Then could be more exciting than it is, but now the safety car, now the restart's going to happen. I'm going to leave the session.
You can just retire from the just to wait because everyone's gonna retire and then they should just retire from this session and we can get the lobby going once again. It of course mainly result because of what happened at Turn 1 of virtual safety car before Turn 1. It just caused so much chaos that can't be good. And the reason I just got told why Nick Lope in last didn't start was because there's a thunderstorm where he currently lives, so the power went out, I assume, for him, and that is yeah, nothing really he can do about that. So that's just really unfair if it wasn't. Just waiting for the last car to retire from the session, which is Denzo. Hope he's gonna do that right now. He is indeed warming up his tires very aggressively. I hope he's realized as well that there is a restart.
Looking for the McLaren driver, and hopefully everything will be okay with the thunderstorms. But yeah, is it going to be another? Is it going to be a wet race, Bob Pierre? Would you leave it to that setting to have a wet race?
I just want to know what the weather was going to be for the rest of the race. It's definitely going to start full wet, but I'm not sure if there was going to be more rain at the end, if it was going to be drying at the end. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, but Denzel, that was crucial for him to get a good start off the line. He's got to repeat it once again and to keep those guys behind. It was quite a tentative start with all the drivers finding traction off the line. A very difficult start indeed. But thankfully there's no contact in the first corner. It all happened down, well, that virtual safety car obviously prevented it, but it messed up a few people because some people were in the wrong positions when the virtual safety car came out, and one of them got a 5-second time penalty as well. Then once it restarted, Kilcree, I think, got a really good restart on Mohammed, or I think it was the Williams of Ashtroud. Went up the inside, but went too wide off the track, made contact again, but thankfully no front wing damage. Then Mohammed came down the inside, and yeah, they came to blows, and unfortunately Kilcree was out of the race along with Mustache as well down at Rivard. So those two will have a second chance this race to rectify those mistakes and get racing once again then. But that was a good reaction there from Kilcree to get that restart sorted, but it doesn't matter now. The restart, it's a red flagged essentially, and we'll have another restart then. Hopefully Nick Lope as well in the McLaren can get things sorted. Someone said an unbind clutch. Felix once said that. I'm not quite sure if it was.
Yeah, no,
yeah, Felix
it
once
was.
said that.
I think something in his area just simply went wrong. There was a thunderstorm, so I'm assuming somewhere around his area the power went out. So yeah, it's not his fault at all.
Yeah, it's just a shame.
It's
there.
just an unfortunate situation, basically. ETA luckily do have a reserve driver who can fill in for him. Just gonna do the custom grid.
Did you send me an invite, Bob? Yeah. Cheers, Bompia. Hopefully while I'm streaming I'm able to get in the session. And I should do. It's happened before with these restarts. Quite a tense moment down at turn number 1. I'm going to rewatch it because there was a lot happening down there. Virtual safety car came out immediately when they started. And I'm going to have a look down at turn number 1 then. Looks like Mohammed was ahead, but Ashdod had the inside line, carried a lot of speed through there, obviously, with the VSC coming out. And I've joined the session, so no problems there. As majority are back, and hopefully Nicola can join the session as well. He's not here at the moment, so they might have to bring
it's going to be a reserve driver need for him. Daniel is taking his place, so he will take the second McLaren seat. He will start the same place where he qualified, which is last, unfortunately.
Yeah, he couldn't get that lap hooked up like his teammate did in that final lap. He validated, I think, at Pouan, where his teammate set a fantastic lap time under huge immense pressure as well, because he had no benchmark, he had no reference there to what lap times he was setting, so that lap time was really important as well, and got it out at the last possible moment. That brings the best starting drivers to sustain the pressure and see if they could perform like that as well. Many drivers couldn't, but he managed to do it and put himself a provisional pole, and he will start down in P3, I think, so not a bad position there for Mohammed whatsoever, despite that pressure he had at the final moments in qualifying, where you know it's your last chance in qualifying, so you have to hook it up, make no mistakes whatsoever with only that one lap time in, otherwise you'll start down in last place, and he managed to do it, so that's a fantastic lap time for Mohammed to pull it out there with only that one chance left he had to put it up into provisional pole in the 40s as well. That's a really good lap time if you could put it in the 40s.
Just on that grid now, only 2 drivers have left the session, which are both the silly boys of IRT, Antonio and Nathan, choosing to not listen. So I'll invite them again, and then hopefully get started very shortly.
Yeah, Nathan was. I saw Nathan momentarily in P1, so he's just probably enjoying that moment, never knowing that he might not ever get it again. No, I'm only kidding, Nathan.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So, Daniel then, the Dutchman, will join us in the McLaren representing CPI. Daniel is very quick around here. He's had some experience here at the Belgian Grand Prix before. I remember back in EML when he had that race as well. He was on the opposite strategy in comparison to everybody else, but he made his way up through the field then with great race pace. So what can Daniel do? Unfortunately, his positioning will be last then, so he'll be going for a mighty long stint. In fact, it's raining anyway, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. But it's raining. Hopefully a dry up towards the end, because I like to see a wet qualifying session and a dry race. And that always puts drivers out of position and could spice up a good race as well, with drivers clawing their way back to the field after maybe not being strong in the wet, but definitely strong in the dry, or others the opposite way around as well, being strong in the wet and not strong in the dry. But let's see what Daniel can do down there in P19. Then 19 drivers on the grid after one driver is missing. But yeah, Aston Martin took their first pole position at Belgium back in 2009 when Giancarlo Fisichella put it on pole position in unusual circumstances as well, because obviously Force India wasn't really a great team back then after their poor results later on in the race, but Giancarlo Fisichella managed to do it. Got promoted to Ferrari at the Italian Grand Prix, I think, but obviously never progressed from there. As for Felipe Massa's incident, I believe, after Luca Badoer took his place, and obviously we saw what he did in Valencia and Belgium, wasn't really finished last by both races and miles off, and therefore Fisichella took the Ferrari seat and unfortunately couldn't progress from there. But yeah, Force India's first and one and only pole back in 2009, waited a long time to get their first podium as well, and their first win, which came at the Bahrain Grand Prix when Sergio Perez came from last to first after Russell's puncture. And also, Force India / Aston Martin / Racing Point went into administration 5 years ago as well. I believe it was this time because Force India, in the mid-season break, we heard that their team boss, I'm not quite sure what the story was there for him, but Vijay Mallya went into debt or something and illegal things, so Force India went into administration there. Then came the hero, Lawrence Stroll, who bought Racing Point, Force India / Racing Point into 2019, and now formerly known as Aston Martin, have done a great job this season. Fell off a few races ago, Aston Martin this year, after their run of podiums, but hopefully they can find their way back, can Aston Martin. But yeah, Aston Martin, Force India, Racing Point have had a lot of history around Belgium as well. They tend to go quite well. Force India, Aston Martin around this track. We saw the 4 wide moment into Le Mans with Sebastian Vettel, Hamilton, Ocon and Perez, where Vettel took the lead off Hamilton, learning from his mistakes last year in 2017 when he pulled out the slipstream a bit too early after Hamilton tactically slowed down into Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Vettel pulled alongside too early. Hamilton had that great power in the Mercedes to stay in P1. Then a year later, Vettel went through as well, with much more power in that Ferrari, taking P1 and eventually won the Belgian Grand Prix.
Yeah, great bit of history. It's of course a very historic track here, with a lot of things happening. And on this game as well, it's very interesting always. As the race, I know now because I said it myself, of course, it's going to be fullback to Inter to dry probably. It would have been that in the actual session as well. So as far as I could have replicated the weather, it is fully back to what it would have been. So that should be a very, very interesting race where qualifying positions, well, they matter, as they always matter, but it's very minimal this time as the lights go on, Jamie.
Yep, no formation lap of course because of glitches, but for the second time in a row, lights are for the Belgian Grand Prix. They're stationary, and finally they go then. So the lights must have went out quick for us, but normal for them then. So Denso gets the start. Mohammed goes to the right hand side then. In fact, he's lagging all over the place. Denso's made contact there. It's the first corner we go because of Mohammed lagging then. So unfortunately Denso, not the second safety car restart he would have wanted. And we can see the Ferrari, the Aston Martin then side by side as we head into who's going to yield into this Eau Rouge Radio we go. They make contact, none of them willing to yield there, and the Ferrari is in a spin then. So major drama going on here in the first opening laps, but Mohammed is in the lead then ahead of Astral, Kilcree in P3 with Antonio getting a few paces as well. But look at that, the Haas almost hits the back of the Mercedes driver. We've got the AlphaTauri of Val going around the outside. He gets off the track then going into turn number 6 we go. And it looks like he squeezed him onto the curve there and remains in P5 for the time being. Daniel has made up few positions there. As you can see, they're all squirming. There's a few drivers off the track, including the Alpine and the Williams then. A few people losing places due to the wet conditions. They're misjudging their braking points. I don't know how much wet practice they put in. Look at this. The Mercedes and Nathan make contact there with the AlphaTauri. They're both off into the wall together. And off the track together those two go as well. So what an incredible first opening lap there. That's Denso after spinning out, being made contact there with Mohammed, hits the back of him as is up into P13 then. That's a shame there for Denso then. So he would have wanted the first race to go ahead, not the second, because I'm not quite sure if Mohammed outbroke himself or it's just lag in general. But a few cars squirming all over the place. Antonio in P4 made up a few positions after other people's misfortunes. We've got Val, who's trying to make up some lost ground in P5 after overtaking both Hasses. He's putting pressure on Antonio, but Antonio then launches ahead with the use of EMS. But look at that, Val not really slowing down for Blanchimon, tried to take it flat out, and he might go up the inside, but he can't do so, too far back. Daniel, look at that, P19 to P9. What an incredible start from Daniel there. And Mohammed sets the fastest lap as we into the twos then, normally in the wet conditions. A few people squirming all over the place here, Bob Pierre. We're heading on to lap 2 then, out of 22.
Yeah, it's been a crazy opening lap with a lot of moves being made, and another one maybe here. Clem and Daniel, they're going side to side in the run up to Eau Rouge, but Clem just didn't have the traction to stay next to the McLaren, and the McLaren now with a lot better run as well through the high-speed corners there. So he maintains that position in P9. Maybe a run from the Alpine. He does have better straight line speed. Is he going to go to the inside? I don't think he is. No, he stays behind for the time being. Come very close though to the diffuser of the McLaren, but he doesn't hit him luckily. As you were saying, a lot of position changes going on. Denso and Beatom were definitely the biggest losers. Although after they both spun in turn 1 and 3, I will say that is, they respectively made up positions back to P12 and P13 for both drivers. Daniel with the best start of them all from that last, of course, jumping in at the last moment, already up into P9, and he's looking very hungry to get up into P8, as Moustache makes a big mistake out of Pool 1, has a little bit of a tank slapper, I want to say, oversteer, and he has lost the position as well to McLaren. So 11 positions already for the Dutchman, and he is looking to get even more.
Yeah, what a great start from Daniel. Avoiding all the chaos there, he actually gets a bit squirrely out the right-hander there as we head into Stabilo. The Moustache, I was on board with him. He looks a bit loose coming out of No Name, then obviously made that big mistake in P1. Gave the place towards Daniel, and both McLarens looking really strong here. Mohammed in P1, and Denzo has overtaken the Ferrari of Igor, then he moves himself up into P12, then carried a lot of speed through Blanchimon, a lot of steering input too. And the battle for P1 then continues, but in fact the gap is 1.3 now as Mohammed sets the fastest lap once again then, so he's got some great pace forming as he actually pulled that 1 second gap then out of any threat as whatsoever. But Denzo sets the fastest lap, that's a 2.0 as well, so 2.0.4, and what a great lap time there from Denzo after making contact unfortunately the first corner with Mohammed, sent him to a spin. Now it's a recovery drive. It's going to be very difficult in these wet conditions here, very hard to follow in the high speed corners as well. No DRS of course in the wet conditions then, so it's all down to pure pace and the aerodynamics working on the car as well. Kilcree, the Aston Martin driver, all over the back of Astroud as they both losing time there towards Mohammed. Look at that, Moustache is sliding through the corner there as we head into Lacombe. Daniel, I think he was under threat from Moustache as he tried to get it back with the straight line speed he had on that McLaren, but he broke a bit late, did Moustache, and slided through the corners with the rears locking up as well. You can see loads of people sliding. Look at the Alpine of Clem there going off the track into Ravage, and Beetham as well, and Denzer. They're all sliding through Ravage as well. Such a difficult downhill braking corner as well. Back in the past, we see people tend to slither off the track, especially back in 2010. I think Hamilton did it going off the track, and Raul there, Moustache, has picked up a 3-second time penalty for extended track limits. Raul once again pressurising Tony into P4 and Nathan into P16 then, so contrasted starts from both Mercedes. Look at that, Kilcree there almost lost it coming out of the chicane there, but thankfully saved the car that he might lose a bit of time now as he loses touch towards Astroud into the clutches of Antonio and Raul. But Raul desperately trying to get past Antonio after losing a few positions at the start. Daniel is making up some great moves here up into P7. I think Danny Connor has had a moment coming out of Stabilo, and now he's lost another place towards Moustache. And look at Antonio going off the track there, the exit of Blanchimon. Will Raul go up the inside? Oh, they both make contact, and they're both off the track as well. Late break in there from Raul has caused Antonio to spin. That was such a weird place to make contact there. It's not weird, but the way they spun in general was quite weird. So we saw Sebastian Vettel and Jensen Button make contact back in 2010 when Vettel lost the car in the braking, smashed into Button's side pod, and therefore retired from that race as well. So unfortunately Antonio is down into P11 outside the top 10 bomb here.
Yeah, not great, of course, for the Mercedes driver, who did really well. He had Raul on his arse, you know, the whole race so far, and a move was probably pretty imminent, but of course making contact is never what you want, as Daniel is looking hungry and he wants to make another position up to the house, and he brakes later than Izan, and I think he is already ahead before the corner even comes. So another move gained and another position gained for Daniel, as Denzo behind has made up another position, as well as Clem, I think, has made a mistake in Lacombe. Now Antonio is also looking for an overtake on the Alpine, and he is sending it. Does he have the brakes to stop that car? He indeed has. The switchback though from Clem is on. They make a little bit of contact as Clem is on the curb, and Antonio, because of that, he stays ahead. Not the greatest of things that happens to Clem with a mistake in Lacombe, losing I think 3 or 4 positions. Danny Connor as well, he made that mistake last lap at Stavelo. I think he almost hit the wall. I don't know if he actually did, but it looks like he definitely has lost some momentum, or front wing, one of the two, and he's back where he started, down in P9. And I think for the rest, the grid is a little bit settling down for now. Gaps around 4/10. As I say, that Beatom is looking for a move maybe on Moustache, as the Ferrari is getting really close to the back of that green Aston Martin. Leighton making a move on Clem, as Clem, he spun going into the third sector. I think that's in Stavelo. Of course, usually in the dry, in qualifying, that is fully flat out. In the wets, it isn't so much. Beatom looking for a move, but it is very late, and he locked his rears and he is off into the grass. Danny Connor making the move past him. Denso now as well is looking for maybe a double move, even as Danny has gone off the track. Denso with that double move, he is up into P8 behind. Beatom is looking for revenge on the Haas, but doesn't quite make the move into turn 1, though Danny has overshot that corner by quite a bit, and now with that exit, Beatom has indeed pulled past the Ferrari up into P9. Denso though, the biggest winner out of that battle.
This is just incredible, Bob, here. Watching all these drivers, the Mercedes has spun down to the bus stop chicane. Here comes Kill Creep, but there's not enough space to go around the outside because the Williams has planted that car in the middle of the track, rightfully so. Great defending there from Astrad against Kill Creep. However, Daniel is up into P4, P19 to P4 in the space. But look at this, we've got Kill Creep up the inside of a Forge. Great lunge from there to force the Williams out wide, and now he puts himself into second place there. So he finally gets relieved from the Williams, but can he close the gap towards Mohammed, who's just checked out in front there, with the gap being 3.3. I don't know who to keep an eye on because there's battles everywhere. You can see everybody's sliding. I've seen on board with all these drivers, they're sliding through the heavy braking zones as well. It's just incredible to watch. Daniel gets a poor exit coming out of Puon with Raul over the back of him, but nowhere to overtake whatsoever. This is so intense because you never know what could happen down in the mid-speed, high-speed braking zone corners as well. It's just incredible to watch all these drivers slither and slide everywhere, re-locking the brakes. It's proven to be Daniel really struggling there as we make our way now into Stavolo. We go. Danny Connor has fallen down into P11, and what's happened to Beatham as well? He's lost a few. Oh, he's lost momentum, and he's sliding all over the place as well, and he's lost the place towards Leighton. Back to P4, then what happens? In fact, we're going to keep an eye on Beatham and Leighton to see what happens at Blanchimon. Who's going to yield? It has to be Leighton for the time being there, so couldn't quite pounce on Beatham's mistake. However, Raul stole over the back of Daniel there, really sliding and struggling through these heavy braking zones as well, heavy traction zones as well. Really crucial to minimise the wheel spin as much as you can. As you can see, everybody sliding through the corners. This is just incredible to watch there. Everybody looks like they're on ice skates at the moment. You can see Equal really struggling despite being in 5th gear, having a lot of wheel spin as well. But despite Kilcree being in P2, as the Haas Danny Connor slides to the corner where Hamilton spun in 2008 at turn number 1, but it was battling Kimi Räikkönen all the way up towards Rouge and Radion as well. But despite Kilcree being released from Astrad, he can't pull the gap down. The gap was like 3.5, now it's 4.4 towards the top 2 then. So you can see Mohammed really showing some great pace. Denzo up into P7 after spinning at turn number 1. After Mohammed hit the back of him, I'm going to assume he's making a recovery drive up into P7 then. So the Red Bull driver, despite making contact from first and falling all the way down to 15th, kept his cool and composure and is making his way up through the field then. So this is a great recovery drive from Denso. How much? Oh, look at the Aston Martin there going very wide, coming into Ravage. This is another corner where we see people slither and slide off the track. A lot of people in the last few laps have gone off the track at this particular part of the race circuit as well. So a lot of drivers here really struggling to find the grip at the wet conditions here in Spa.
Yeah, it's looking like a slide fest, especially in that middle sector where the grip is just really needed. And I think with Beto and Leighton, that battle is really interesting since the Avatari looks like he has way more front wing and rear wing. He just has way better downforce than Beto. But of course, on the other side of that, the Ferrari can just fly past him on the straights. It's just in front of them, Denso has gone off track, and Mutash is side to side on Stefano. Denso off the track, almost into the wall, still side to side. And I think it's just purely down to straight line speed here, and the Red Bull has that upper hand over the Aston Martin. Beats him now as well. Fanting a move maybe after Blanchimont. He went a little bit wide. Does he dare to send it into the bus stop? He does not. Stays behind both cars, and I think that's of course the wise decision as Denso has gone deep again. Maybe this opens a door for either Mustache or Beatom. They're going to go really close next to each other, but it's not going to be enough for anyone, I think, to make a move. Maybe Beatom down the inside. He does not. The yellow flag behind. That's for Antonio, who didn't have any luck whatsoever after being hit in the bus stop now for a second spin after that. And Beatom and Mustache, they both look at that Red Bull and really want to get past. I think after Arouge and Radion, Denso has a really good sequence there through those corners. Mustache with that overtake button, same for Denso, but Mustache has a little bit more in the tank, isn't quite close enough to make that move, and they'll slot him behind Leighton as well. He has fallen down a bit 1.2 seconds, so he can definitely climb that back up in the middle sector. But Moustache is still right on the gearbox of Denso.
Denso really suffering here in these mid-speed corners. Moustache is alongside him into the Farge, baseline contact, and here comes Beatom making use of that mistake there for Moustache. Moustache off the track once again, and here comes Leighton then taking advantage of the Aston Martin's misfortune. He's lost 2 places now towards Beatom and Moustache there. Moustache trying to stick around the outside, makes slight contact, which was enough to unsettle the car, and 2 people took advantage of that then. So Moustache there with his work cut out in P10, and Beatom there trying to make a recovery drive after making contact with Antonio as well. I'm surprised, Bob, here that there's been no safety car in this race at all. They've just, these guys really fighting the car more than other people as they're really trying to tackle this track. Leighton there almost getting out of shape, coming out of Stavlo there, as I think Daniel now is pursuing Astrad for P3. If you just joined us, we had a restart, a second race being put in place after Nicolepli in P19 there, who suffered with power loss due to the thunderstorms in his area. So hopefully everything's alright with him. But he got replaced by Daniel then, who started P19 and who's coming into P4 after 5 laps as well in the rain here in Spa. I want to watch Daniel's first opening laps, because that is just incredible. How much practice did he put into this? Did he know he might be taking his teammate's place? But both McLarens looking really strong. However, I think this is crucial for Mohammed to pull a big gap on the guys behind, because you never know, he might pick up a penalty after hitting the back of Denso then, depending if it comes down to a racing incident or not. You can't be sure, you've got to pull that gap. If a safety car comes out, he might be under huge pressure with the gap. Oh, Daniel there hits the back of Astrad there, fighting for P3. If he gets on the podium, Daniel, one of my drivers of the day, even though it is an esports event, but still, he's definitely one of my drivers of the day. You can see they're squirming and fighting with the car on the exit there, with the confidence he has in that McLaren, able to fight the car bravely as well. Look at that, it's so tight between the two, nothing separating these two. Daniel gets much better traction as we head into No Name we go. Not a place for the fight, especially with Chad Levis on the outside, but Daniel gets a much better exit. Will Astral continue this fight all the way down into P1 we go. Daniel takes P3 for the time being. Would he get out? Would he exceed Chad Levis? He does for momentarily, but Daniel sticking around the outside there with Astral there trying to find the inside. This is incredible racing in the wet conditions. The car control these drivers have is incredible. None of them losing the car. Oh, look at that, talk about that. Daniel did lose it momentarily, just sliding through the exit there in the chicane. But these battles are intense as Kilcree has left the session in P2. He is out of the race, unfortunately, for the time being then, so he has to get back in there as quickly as he can then. Otherwise, Daniel and co will be all over the back of him very shortly then. So Kilcree, this is Daniel's chance now to try and overtake Kilcree without him being an obstacle. He's a ghost for the time being then. So this is an incredible drive from Daniel, if he can make a McLaren 1-2, which I never thought would happen in this race.
Yeah, no, that's one of the biggest, of course, upsets that we've gotten to see in this race. Astrad and Daniel showing a little bit of great racecraft in that second sector. Kilcree has disconnected. I can't invite him back yet, but when I can, I'll definitely make sure to do that. Daniel, for the meantime, he has gone through the ghost of the Aston Martin, who unfortunately picked up a penalty as well right before he disconnected. So his race has only gone from bad to worse in the space of, well, 3, 4, 5 corners. So of course not what you want to see if you are an LR member or fan or whatever. Denso, in the meantime, he is gonna try and get around the outside of Lecom on the Haas. Is he gonna make this move stick? They both break around the same time, but the Red Bull just with more traction overshoots the corner slightly though, and that allows the Haas to get back in front. Great racing again. We've seen here space being left for both cars. Astrad, in the meantime, he is struggling to get past the Ghost, which is very interesting to see, as it is also of course a Ghost, but there he goes in No Name. He gets a little bit of a moment though, as Raul is right on the back of that Williams, who now is going to make the overtake for P3 on track. It's really annoying when a Ghost is of course in you, because you can't see exactly where you're going, and Astrad has lost 2 seconds to the McLaren of Daniel because of that, and ET8 are in a role of their own now, as there is further back, I think that's someone spun. That's an Aston Martin, and that is a full safety car. I think Moustache has made a mistake and he has lost all of his wing, so that is one safety car on this race. You said a couple of laps ago you were surprised there was no safety car yet, and there we have it. That is our first safety car of the race, and hopefully the last. But with the weather as it is, maybe we're gonna see some drivers switch onto the Inters.
Well, safety car has wiped out Mohammed's lead completely. I think the Haas driver of Isan in P6 went for a slight spin coming out of turn 13 because he lost 2 seconds. Mohammed is in the pit lane. I think both McLarens can double stack because the gap they have. Will they come in the pit lane for the intermediates, like you said then? So the rain now is can stand the intermediates. It's no longer full rain. It's just light rain for the time being. Oh, that's a shame there for Kilcree. If he does come back in a session, the safety car will bunch him up, and if he does come back and if he does pit, he will find himself down into last place because all these drivers will pit and Kilcree won't have that gap. So I think Daniel, however, did he lose time? No, he hasn't. I thought he'd lose. Yes, he has. Yeah. Astrad has just jumped him in the pit lane due to that double stack from both McLarens there, and Astrad is up into P3. So let's have a look at the tyres, shall we? As you can see there, everybody except Kilcree should be in the intermediates then, so that's a massive shame there for Kilcree. He will join in last place once he makes his pit stop, if he does join back the session, and he would hope for a safety car a long time ago when he left the session. Safety car would be ideal for him if he's AI pitted and therefore not lose a lot of time. He might have jumped Daniel in the pit lane if he's AI pitted, but obviously these guys being the AI's not really recognising the strategy there, and everybody else on the intermediate compound tyres. This gives those drivers a chance, a second chance, those guys down there, to regain some lost positions after their misfortunes, like Antonio, Igor, Mustache, Lupi. All those drivers made contact early in the race as well. Give those drivers a second chance to claw their way back through the field. Then Denzo as well will help him try and take first place back if he can do so, because his pace has been mighty so far. Now with the intermediates, then the rain shouldn't be intense as it was a few laps ago, and these drivers might find a bit more grip now on these intermediate tyres. We should see a mega fight then for first place. Mohammed, however, if he does get a penalty for that first lap collision, maybe it'll come down to race distance due to lag then, but you never know. You can be so sure about that one, because it definitely hindered Denzo's race and dropped him all the way down to P15 on the first lap then, so you can't be quite sure. But Mohammed then might have to pull that safety buffer over the guys behind. However, Daniel in P4 has had a great race from P19 to P4. I'll reiterate it again and again just to remind you, for those people joining, in the wet conditions around Spa, very hard as well to overtake out here in the wet conditions of any track. It's so hard, it's so difficult to pick up the throttle and brake as well, because you're sliding throughout the place. But Daniel somehow has managed it in P4 there, and he could be on course for a podium from last place.
Yeah, that would be great if he, of course, manages to do that. Kilcree is probably one position that he will get on for free after the safety car has gone in. Aston Martin's AI is still deciding that staying out is the best option, which it probably isn't. Looking at the track, it's definitely into time. But yeah, there's still chance for everyone basically to get up there. The track is going to be dry at the end of the race, probably dry enough to go to slicks as well. So there's going to be even more chaos, I predict, with the likes of Denso, Beatom, and Antonio as well, who was doing great up until certain incidents and certain mistakes from himself as well. They will all be looking to make positions back up to the field, and we've seen some great racing from the lads, and I hope that will continue. But of course it can always go wrong, can always just be a little bit too eager on the throttle, and then with just a tiny mistake there can be another safety car and the race can be shaken up again. So there's nothing out of the window yet. All 19 drivers as well still in contention, even though we've seen drivers hit the wall, be very close to the wall, make contact with each other, and just full wet racing in general. No one has DNF'd yet, so that's also a great sign.
That's incredible. Nobody's DNF'd, and I want to mention Izan's battle with Denzo, because Denzo looked like he had the high ground on Izan, but Izan swooped around the outside on Denzo into Lacombe. That was a fantastic move that he able to pull off. And also, someone said in the comments, Jose said, Izan has a broken leg, so he has amazing pace. So despite a broken leg, the Haasman's got some great pace there, and hopefully can show it. He's currently in P6 at the moment, so he's looking in a really good position with 2 drivers ahead of him picking up penalties of Mal in P5. Has also shown some great pace, a bit sketchy now, and in fact every driver has had a few sketchy moments in this race with them going off the track, and it's incredible. All 19 drivers are still in the session then, and it's just amazing to see the skill these guys have as well, the bravery, the confidence they have going side by side, their racing etiquette as well towards people, giving each other enough space. Yes, it's been contact now and then, you expect that around here in Belgium in the wet conditions, but I want to shout out all the drivers here who stayed in the race despite their misfortunes. A safety car with nobody retiring, that's incredible. And yeah, just a massive shout out to all these drivers withstanding the heavy conditions here in Belgium, just managing it as well, dealing with it. I know it's very hard to race in the rain, it's so tempted to just retire in the pit lane, but you never know what could happen around here. And a huge, massive respect, especially for those guys down in last place who was so far back, no hope whatsoever, but for some reason we've got the Alfa Romeo. I think somebody just went off the track. Was that Clem who went off the track at the exit of Stavolo? He's just lost the place towards Loopy.
Yeah, it looked like it. He was just off track. Nathan tried to take advantage of that as well, but he couldn't quite get past. The safety car has gone around for one more lap, which gave Skilcree some time to join back, but I don't think if he would have joined back, he would have done it by now. But the Alfa Romeo, well,
yes,
speaking of the devil,
he's back.
He's just joined back. It's just too late though, because the safety car has gone past the pit lane, and so he will need to, well, see it out there on full wet tyres. Well, the track is Inter and everyone else is on Inters. It's not the best situation, of course, for him to be in, but at least he is back. He can give it a go with everything that is happening. You never know.
I'm just rewatching because there's been a lot of battles at this track. I think we've had an overtake at every single corner, including Eau Rouge and Radion. Every single corner has drivers has been an overtake as well. That's incredible. Every single part of this track overtakes all over it as well, which you don't really see in some corners going side by side as well. There is Kilcree. He's a solid card now. He is back, but he finds himself in a really vulnerable position then in P1 on the wet tyres. So he'll make a pit stop towards the end of this lap. It's not going to be a Monaco situation where it could dry up very easily, but like Lewis Hamilton did, he skipped the interphase and went on to the dries. He went from wet to dries instead of going on the inters like the rest of it. But I don't think it'll be in this situation because the rain's still there. Unless he can hold it on in the wet conditions, what will he do? Will he pit and fall to the back of the field and lose a lot of time? Will he stay out there just to risk it? I don't think so. I don't know. What would you do in this scenario, Bompier?
Well, if it's of course very difficult, because if you pit, you're last. If you don't pit, you're probably last as well. But then you have some time, you know, to get there. You're not instantly last, and you don't have that 20-second deficit that you have if you pit right now. So I'd say just, you know, stick it out. Have some faith, maybe in the weather gods as well. That's gonna dry up within 3-4 laps. Then maybe you can do something. But yeah, it's a very tough situation for him to be in. The safety car is going to go in. The one advantage that he does have, of course, is that he leads. He leads the race, that he can decide when to go. So if he really catches that McLaren of Mohammed lacking and sleeping, then he can maybe pull a gap and try to survive up until sector 2, which is very wishful thinking, but that is of course what he needs to keep in mind, that just stay in the lead for as long as possible and then pray for the best.
Yeah, Mohammed doing a Max Verstappen tactic there momentarily, just going alongside him, which you're not allowed to do these days. But looks like Kilcree has gone, and he's left Mohammed behind. I think Mohammed's all over the place. Enzo has got a 5-second time penalty for hit to the back of Aizu there. But as we head down into the bus stop chicane, you can't overtake until the safety car line, so we shouldn't see overtakes happening until Denzo is so close to being overtaken there. But as expected then, Kilcree's in the pit lane, and PTR RGB has just overtaken Aizu in the final corner there, which probably is illegal because you have to wait till the first corner then. So the rain has just eased up a little bit now, so these drivers might find it a bit more oh, I think somebody's just gone sideways because at turn 1. Denzo's all over the back of Aizen then as we make our way now. Will he force a lunge? No, he won't. We've seen what happened already on the first lap when people go side by side with Eau Rouge and Radion in the wet. Then Denzo really cutting that corner there, the exit of Radion. But Daniel then is all over the back of Astrad there. Will he make an overtake into Leclerc at turn before we go? No, because Astrad smartly places the car in the middle of the track to prevent that from happening. Danny Connor has overtaken, I think, Leighton for P8 as the second half of Eisen there, really struggling to find a rhythm there. He's been pressured by Denzo as we make our way now into Ravage. We go Denzo having the inside line there, probe for contact. That was so close between those two. Thankfully no further contact was made, otherwise Denzo probably find himself in a spin there. But as you can see, then Astrad has already lost that 1 second gap towards, oh, he's got off the track there, the exit of Puon. Might have cost himself a warning there. Got to be very careful now in this stage of the race not to get a warning or penalty being this far into it. Nathan and Clem swap of his positions as Nathan's off the track there. Not quite sure what happened to him as he's been overtaken by the Alfa Romeo now of Lupi for P14. But Daniel really pressurising the Williams there, making it a McLaren 1-2. And we'll see them coming out of Stabilo how it all unfolds in the bus stop chicane. Will Daniel be close enough? Will he use the ERS to try and close in on the Williams and try and overtake him at the bus stop chicane? Or will he wait for it to come straight into Lacan? But he's getting so close there. You can see the confidence he has in the Blanchimon to get closer, closer. Daniel then choosing the outside line. You have the inside line into the final corner we go. Will he make it stick? Will Astrad try to stick it around the outside? He tries to, but look at the background there. You can see Raul looking very interested there, but Astrad's still there, by the way. And now we'll have the inside line into turn one we go. Daniel braking later there, much more confident in the brakes, but goes a bit deep. Will it allow Raul through? Will Daniel get a bad exit there with traction? No, he doesn't. And then he stays in P3 for the time being. Astrad's mighty defence has been shown once again, and he remains in P2 there for the time being under huge pressure there from Daniel. But I dare say that it'll be easy pickings on this straight as we head towards the Calm. Oh, will it? Because you can see that Astrad using the ERS to try and stay ahead. But Daniel this time will try and go down the inside into Lacombe. Into P2 he goes for the time being. Denzo on the curb there into Lacombe. Trying to go around the outside. Do the old switcheroo here. Into Lacombe we go. The exit of it. He's on the inside for the time being. As we make our way now into Ravage. Denzo has the preferred. But look at that. In the foreground we can see Astrad off the track. And Raul has got past him. So that's cost him crucial there. For Astrad, he's losing a lot of time as Denzo has finally dispatched Eisen and he moves himself up into P5. Great recovery drive from Denzo despite spinning out on the first corner after contact was made there, but he's up into P5. Can he claim a podium?
It will definitely be on his mind as with P3 having a penalty as well, and he only needs to overtake one driver, as I saw as well. A little bit further back, Leighton spinning coming out of Lacombe. In that right hand, I don't know if there was contact or not, and there's a battle now in the middle sector as well with Lupi and Nathan, and there has been a little bit of contact in that middle chicane. Lupi dropping down to P16 because of it, and the gap to the cars in front is already 6 seconds as Enzo has a big moment through Stavelo. Beetham is now looking at the back of Eisen. Is he gonna? Yes, he is indeed gonna go for a move on the bus stop chicane. He brakes at the same time, gets the car stopped, but is going to go for that switcheroo. He doesn't quite get the traction out of the bus stop onto the start finish straight to overtake the Haas already, but maybe going for a move into turn 1. He is indeed going to go for it, and in the apex very nicely as well. But I think with that outside line, the Haas just has more momentum, and Moustache, that is in the background, lost a lot of positions. I'm not quite sure what happened, as it was into turn 1 only. Maybe he just locked the rears, which is a very recurring theme on this game, of course. Beetham now, third time's the charm on the Haas for him, maybe as well, using the overtake button, but he doesn't quite get ahead of him. Denso ahead of us is also making a move on Estrad, 2 moves ahead, going on at the same time. A little bit of contact made between Denzo and Estrad, but the Red Bull gets the job done, and Beetham as well has moved into Eisen, and now he fancies another move on Estrad. Can he get 2 in 2 corners as well? The Williams breaks a lot later, but Beetham actually makes the corner, and the Ferrari is now as well up into P5. Denzo and Beetham both on a very big chart up the field. As Daniel, no, he gets a penalty in P2, and currently Denzo is within that range, and Beetham maybe as well. Raul is putting massive pressure as the McLaren. Oh, there is contact. Raul breaks way later than Daniel for the corner. A little bit of contact. I don't think there was damage, but it wasn't ideal in any sort of way for both drivers there. Daniel doesn't really find the grip in the inters, which he did find in the wet conditions, and Raul is looking to go for a move rather sooner than later.
Oh, Daniel there, after all that hard work from P19 up into P2, has picked up a 3-second time penalty there. So Denzo is looking in a really great position to finish in P2. If he can close that gap down, which I think he has, he's 1.9 behind Riley, so he should get it. But Antonio then was in P15. He's actually half spun the car as we make our way to the final corner, squeezing the Mercedes out. Is Eagle there trying to get some space as they slither out the exit coming out of the final corner. Antonio remains in P9, weaving a bit, not quite sure if he's saying what happened there or whatever. But Denzo there 1.4 behind. He's got Beathom. Beathom also on a great recovery drive after what happened at the bus stop chicane between himself and Antonio, where they both spun the car down there. And Beathom then all over the back of the Red Bull, so it looks fairly strong. He might be the one who could take a podium. In fact, both of them could take a podium due to P2 and P3 having penalties. And so Beathom is up into P4 then, ahead of Denzo. And Denzo will look to fight it back. But Bompia, it has stopped raining, my friend, and we might see some dry tyres being used later on in the session.
Yeah, it definitely has, but Denzo, yeah, he also has a penalty just after being overtaken by Beathom. Picked up a penalty which currently drops him down. I think the P6, as Astrad of course, were not overtaken, and both Haases are basically within that 3-second window. Both there just on the edges. But it has indeed stopped raining. The track still, I think it's it definitely is too wet to go into slicks, but it's definitely coming in the couple of laps that are here towards the end. I think maybe lap 18, lap 19. Of course, the game is very unpredictable, even with custom weather. When the track is gonna dry up, Beathom with a purple middle sector is really looking towards that podium. What have you seen?
I've seen Denzo getting out of shape into turn 12 and 13 of the chicane. He almost hit the wall coming out of Stavro then, so he looks like he's lost a lot of grip. He really is struggling on the intermediates, and he's actually 1.1 behind Beathom then, who's into P4. So Denzo here hasn't looked really strong on this interface so far. I'm not quite sure what it is. Maybe he sustained some damage. You never know. Side pod damage. Daniel sets the fastest lap. The times are tumbling down now. We were in the 2 minutes on the first lap. Now in the 1:52.9. The track is ramping up now. It'll get quicker and quicker. Who will pull the trigger first? Both McLarens on a bit of yeah, look at that. You can see Igor there being pressurised by Antonio. Now he's being pressurised by Clem right behind him too. Yeah, both McLarens there, first and second, and being quite close to each other. Really compromised position because they both have to do the double stack. And I dare say Daniel will lose quite a few positions, not too much, but he definitely lose some positions. I thought DRS was enabled, but it wasn't. As you can see, this train there behind Igor is falling up. But you can see Lupi in P18 is on the soft compound tyres then, so giving his teammates some information to see how the soft actually work out for him. Kilcree is in the pit lane and on the inters again, so maybe he sustained some damage, I'm not quite sure. But what a shame there from the Aston Martin driver. It's just the internet that cost him this race. We never know what he could have done up there, but that's how it goes unfortunately in this game. Just the internet goes on you at the worst possible time, especially when the AI doesn't really register or recognise what strategy to go on to, because it's not as accurate as it should be. But yeah, it's just a shame there for Kilcree. What could it have been for him? But he knows he's got the pace, and hopefully he can come back stronger in the next race. But bottom there almost lost it coming out of before Stabilo at turn 14 there, but saved the car. But he's dropped Denzo by a margin as well, distant gap over 2 seconds. And Astraud might be looking for revenge after he was the one that actually cost him 2 positions there into Lacomi went. So he's actually closing in on Denzo now, looking to take back P5. But is anybody pitting? No, it's just a bit too early. As you can see, the track is not really dry enough, but Denzo has actually pulled the trigger, and I think somebody spun down there at Ravage. Was that Lupine P18? Maybe not time for soft yet. You can see there on the soft compound tyres. So let's see how his lap time. We've not seen a fastest lap yet from Lupi, so indicating the track is still a bit wet for the dry tyres. As Denzo then has committed and took a risky strategy there to go on the soft compound tyres. But this could be quite interesting towards the end of the race, though, in the closing stages. Who gets it right, who gets it wrong, because you're going to be very precise, as it's very easy to make the wrong call. Pit one lap later or early will definitely cost you. It's not really like, I don't know how to describe it, these real life
I've been, sorry to interrupt you, but I've been on board with Lupi throughout basically the whole lap, and he's 4 seconds improving through the middle sector. So I think Denzo, RGB and Nathan they all made that correct strategy call at the right moment. The first sector, Lupi was still down on his time, but he has found so much time in that middle sector on the soft tires that he's going to put the fastest lap time on the board right now, except of course if his fastest lap time was way off everyone else, which apparently it was. He improved 5 seconds, maybe the timing were wrong, but he did do a 54, and there the DRS is enabled. So those three who just pitted onto the soft tires have made a brilliant strategy call. Denso as well making a move past Enzo, and already 1 second ahead of the Alpine. So Denso is back in contention for maybe the race win, because he's now just gaining so much time on both McLarens that he will jump out way in front. His tires are warmer, he will have more pace as well during the end of this race, as only 1 lap, the softs don't really go off that bad. Purple middle sector for Denso, so it's definitely going to be a fastest lap time for him. Mohammed into the pit lane, Daniel stayed out, Beatom staying out, and I think Beatom might try to go to the end because he didn't have the double stack. Daniel definitely did, so that could be the reason for the McLaren to stay out, but the Ferrari didn't have that burden on him. As a lot of drivers are pitting onto the soft tires, it will be very, very interesting at the end of this race.
I've seen this scenario before where it comes towards the end of the race, mixture people on different tyres on inters and softs, but who's going to make the right call then? Coming towards the late stages, it makes sense not to pit with like 3 laps to go, but in this scenario you could gain like a huge amount of tyres. The deficit will be big between the softs and mediums. Mohammed's in P5, Denso in P7, so Denso hasn't quite undercutted Mohammed, but Mohammed then, if these 4 have committed to staying out, trying to go to the end, but the deficit on those softs and inters will be huge, and Mohammed then will have to overtake these guys on the track if they're trying to go towards the end. If a safety car or virtual came out, you never know what could happen, as Igor has overtaken Danny Connor then, both on the same tyres. Enzo stayed out there, by the way. There's yellow flags in that first sector. That's the Williams there. No, it's not the Williams. I'm not quite sure who caused that in that first sector there in the first corner, but it's gone away very quickly, so someone's had a slight moment out of the first. But Denso has picked up another penalty. That is 6 seconds towards his name then, so a chance of a podium could be slipping out of his hands. He's really extending the track limits here in the dry period. The wet then, it was basically all about survival towards the end, picking the right lap to pit, because if you pit 1 lap or 2 laps earlier, or 1 lap early or 1 lap late, that's a huge time loss. You've got to be very precise in this game. It's not like real life where it takes a few laps like for the softs to just warm up and kick in, but these two then are in the pit lane. Eisen will be following very shortly then, as Eagles got past Enzo, and Mustache will be heading off into the pit lane as well to put on a brand new set of softs then. So these guys not extending it. In fact, Mustache is then, so he's committed to that. But he's got Mohammed behind him then, as I dare say Bottom should have pitted. Beatom should have pitted there while he had the chance. He didn't have to do the double stack, did he? As Denzo sets the fastest lap of 42.8, but Mohammed's all over the back now on Mustache, and he'll be taking his way his second place very shortly then, with the DRS enabled. For the first time in this race, DRS has been enabled. You can see there a lot of drivers have picked up penalties as well in this race then, so the drivers who haven't can find themselves in a really good position towards the end. Mustache has been overtaken by Mohammed. Very easy move as Nathan sets the fastest lap of the race, and the fastest lap will keep tumbling down as the track gets better. Denzo up into P4 then, ahead of Val, both on the same tyres of course, fighting for a podium with one driver having more penalty than the others. Danny Connor has overtaken Igor for P9 then on the Camel Straight, so back to usual scenario where most of the overtakes will be happening on the Camel Straight now. But Beatom there looks in a good position in P6, no penalties to his name. If he keeps it like this, he could find himself maybe up at P3, because he's not far behind Denzo either, so Beatom there can keep it on the track at all times. Can he get in the DRS range of Val? Because that's very helpful, getting the DRS range and sticking with your rivals there. It's very hard to get out of the DRS range of somebody. Denzo got to be very careful, because in fact Mohammed's overtaken Izan for P1, but Denzo's all over the back. He goes down the inside of turn 14 here, and he overtakes Mustache then with Val all over the back of him. He can't afford to get stuck behind the Aston Martin. He has to overtake him now so he doesn't lose Denzo in the process, and he overtakes the Aston Martin. In fact, he's still side by side, but Denzo should have him. Val should have the Aston Martin with Beaton following very quickly then with Daniel in P7. Daniel has lost a lot of time, just that double stack, but here comes Beaton then. It might go alongside the Aston Martin, might go alongside the AlphaTauri. Take 2 for 1 here with the inside line. A bit of contact made between the two, but Beaton there gets a much better exit with no with DRS. He's just activated very late. Mustache is hanging it out towards the end. Might as well now because there's only one more lap to go. There's no point pitting and losing a huge amount of time. It might do so with the intermediates then. But Beaton is on course for a podium because one driver ahead of him is on the inters. The other one has got a 3-second time penalty then.
Well, it's a 6-second time penalty for good measure as well, so he doesn't even need to be within 3 seconds, it needs to be in 6 seconds, which he currently is with ease, as Daniel makes the move past Raul, both on equal penalties. I think Daniel will go very deep, hit the back of Beaton, but with a good save, the Ferrari can still stay ahead. Denso just adding another penalty for good measure as well, now up to 9 seconds, as he hits the back of Eisen, and he hits Eisen again, and that's Eisen out of this race. Denso and Eisen make contact in turn 6 or 7, that is, with the Red Bull sustaining big wing damage now. Eisen out of the race, tapped around and finished off. Kind of had that impression at the Red Bull with wing damage. Yes, definitely he has his end plate missing. Behind him, it's going to be too wide with Daniel and Beaton battling it out in the middle sector. The Red Bull is becoming a little bit of a moving obstacle as Daniel has moved past him. Beaton not quite, as he now is stuck behind him. Going into the last sector in Staffalo as well, we can't really quite get past him yet. Both Deering as well, and Rowe is now looking maybe to this battle to see if he can cope on anything that happens in front. No moves being made into the bus stop. Then so might pit, he might not, of course, because it's the penultimate lap of the race already, and he is staying out. Beaton making the move relatively easily with a good switchback on the Red Bull on the start-finish straight, but he is outside of that DRS straight from Daniel. So is he gonna get back in? He is not now. He's missing it out by a tenth as Mustache just keeps on losing positions. Antonio now the next one to overtake the last Inter runner into Arouche, and Radion staying behind him for now, and then indeed on the exit they make a little bit of contact, but it shouldn't be that big of a problem for the Mercedes driver. For Denso, he overtakes Beaton again, Enzo with the fastest lap of the race.
Quite intense there. Denzo's got a lot of straight line speed now with the lack of front wing. Beaton can't afford any contact. He knows he's not getting penalties. He knows it's a podium on the cards. He can't afford to. Oh, look at that. Raul's coming up the inside, and he might take on Beaton. Into revanche we go. Now going into No Name. He's still stuck behind the Red Bull. He has got no front wing, of course, with the lack of downforce. Like you said, a moving obstacle on the track. Beaton would have loved to dispose him. He can't afford to make contact. He's gone off the track here in P1. He can't afford to pick up a penalty. Otherwise, it might drop him outside the podium. They're very intense there for Beaton. He should have disposed of that Red Bull. Oh, he hits the back of him. This is getting a bit too intense now. Everything's going into a forge. And look at that. Raul trying to go around the outside. Just squeezes him. He bumps him off the track. He's trying to force his way through. They both make contact. He can't afford to make contact. And look at that. Oh, he's in a spin. And that's his podium chances over. Oh, that should not have gone down like that. It shouldn't have gone down, unfortunately, like that for him. He should have had a podium. He was squabbling for the Red Bull far too long. He's just cost himself a podium. Mohammed comes across the line to win the intense Belgian Grand Prix. It's going to be a McLaren 1-2 like in Monza, as Daniel sets the fastest lap. Denso will finish in P3. Astrode in P5. Igor outdrags Raul towards the line as Danny Connor out of nowhere gets a podium in P3. What an intense last few laps of this race. It shouldn't have happened like that. Beaton should have disposed of Red Bull while he had the chance. He's into P7. P3 was on the cards in the script, but the Red Bull there a bit too rash and fights a bit more than he should have there against Beaton. Just, I don't know, that's just yeah, scruffy last few laps of the race ever since he took out Eisen. There's Beaton's left the session in rage. It says he's DNF, but he's crossed the line, so we should classify him. He's actually fallen down the order. So Gilcree, another driver. Oh, it's just a shame there for people down there. He should have been up there. Gilcree's AI left. He sets the fastest lap. Consolation there, point for him. Bragging rights to take the fastest lap. Leighton will come across the line to finish in P17 there, in fact P16, because Beaton keeps falling down the order for some reason. But Mohammed He just dominated the whole race, mate. What a fantastic drive from Mohammed. What a fantastic drive from both McLarens in general. Daniel trying to keep out of trouble there. He picked up penalties. I thought it was a disadvantage when they pitted on the dry tyres, but actually finished in P2. His podium was at risk there. But ever since that contact was made between the Red Bull and the Ferrari, Daniel was able to pull away from that and finish in P2. Danny Connor, I don't think he expected a podium there, but what a fantastic drive.
Yeah, he like I said, he came out of nowhere to finish in P3 podium for Esports back. I think they'll be delighted with that. Of course, where did he start? He started down in P9, so not even that far off, but just with the right strategy calls, with the right pace as well. Of course, you need that. He manages to get P3, as I think there's a little bit of a glitch going on with Leighton for some reason not classifying for the race results. He's still driving around on track, but a 1-2-4 ET8, that is the perfect start for the season, of course, for them. Esports back P3, they'll probably get P3 in the standings as well. Looking at that, WR in P4, LDO P5, then the standings will be a bit mixed up because drivers left, but I think both CPI guys finished P6 and P7, Igor P6, and D-Tom. After what happened on their last lap, he's P7 with Antonio on P8. I dare to say, not quite sure, but that was a very, very interesting end to the race.
Yeah, especially on the penultimate lap as well. We saw Denzo not giving an absolute flying as he took out Eisen in the process. He's on the intermediate, he just barged past people, just not giving a care. And yeah, ever since then, just driving a bit rash, really, a bit much to handle. Nathan in P7 after being outside the top 10 most of the race as well. But yeah, what a race. The victory definitely goes towards Mohammed. Yeah, may have made contact in the first corner. I'm not quite sure if he outbroke himself or it was just lag. Maybe the Red Bull was in the wrong place for him. You never know, but yeah, I don't think he intentionally meant it anyway, but he definitely deserves the win after great pace in the wet, great pace in the dry, and controlled it ever since then. And Daniel as well, what a fantastic drive from him from P19 to P2. All his hard work came in the wet, got rewarded in the dry after he had a double stack, fell down the order a bit, but it didn't phase him whatsoever, and he came back as well. Danny Connor in P3 as well. He did struggle out there in the wet conditions, it must be said, but like I said, it was a survival race, and also it was to see who could get the least penalties, if not none, and that's definitely what put him into P3 as well. Raul was there quite well. He was up there quite a lot of times in this race, but still couldn't get that podium he wanted as well. Great moves from him in this race so far. Drivers are leaving the session because there is a glitch with later, like you said. But yeah, I can't wait for the next one if it's going to be intense like this.
Yeah, there was some positives. Well, many positives, I dare to say, above what happened in the last couple of laps. But a lot of positives to take out from the racing, from the closeness. That there was, of course, some battles for the lead, although they weren't that really that close at all, as Mohammed was just in a league of his own today. So well done to him, and definitely looking forward to next week.
Yeah, me too, mate. It's been a pleasure commentating with you. Might as well round it off while we're still on the track and we can leave the session. But it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate with you for the first time in a while, and hopefully you enjoyed this Belgian Grand Prix. And Leighton crossed the line finally. No, he doesn't classify, so he could drive around for an extra few laps. Hopefully he's got the fuel as well to do that. But yeah, what's the next track, Bompier?
Quick look. It is, if it wants to load, it's Netherlands, Zandvoort.
Alright, everybody then. So join us back at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort. This time next week at 4:30, I think it is. And we'll see you all next time at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. So Bompier's home Grand Prix and a few other people's home Grand Prix as well. And this is it from us. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the MotoGP Grand Prix that's happening down at the Austrian Grand Prix as well. And we'll see you all whenever.